Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at the Generation 1 Fire type Pokemon names to see if they make sense in English. We'll look at the English words that make up these Pokemon names, and at the end, I will rank them to tell you which ones actually make sense, which ones I like the most. Starting with number 4, Charmander. So many people love Charmander, but does the name make sense? It starts with char, which is the part of something that gets burned or blackened, and that makes sense. Charmander is a fire type. And then we get to mander. Charmander is the last part of salamander. Salamanders really like wet places with water, so I don't know if this part makes sense for Charmander's name. Next up, we get to number 5, Charmeleon. Charmeleon is a fire type, so the char still makes sense, still the burned stuff, and melion is the last part of chameleon, this kind of reptile. This makes a little more sense than Charmander, which is an amphibian. Salamanders are amphibians, chameleons are reptiles, less about the water. And third in the evolution, we have Charizard. Charizard. Again, burned stuff, makes sense. But Izard comes from this kind of animal that are called lizards. Chameleon is actually an example of a lizard. Kind of interesting, we looked at the grass types last time, and in the first 3 grass types, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and Venusaur, it keeps the last part of the name, but these fire types keep the first part of the name. Kind of interesting. Moving on from that line, we get to number 37, Vulpix. Vulpix. The Vulp comes from vulpine, which is the adjective for foxes in English, and there are lots of these kinds of adjectives. Canine for dogs, feline for cats, ursine for bear, and equine for horses. Vulp comes from this line of adjectives. And the name of foxes is Vulpes vulpes, the species and genus name. And the Ix probably comes from just the general number 6, which is Vulpix's number of tails. I think this name makes a lot of sense. It puts the idea of foxes in your mind, and Vulpix looks a lot like a fox. Vulpix will evolve into Ninetales, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst names. It just comes from the number 9 and tales, which are stories in English, but it sounds a lot like tales. It did not change very much because, Ninetales has 9 tails. The tails of Ninetales do look a little bit more like flames, which is a little better shape, I think, than Vulpix's tails. Next up, we have Growlithe. Growlithe. Growl, the first part, is the grrr sound, a low sound that dogs make when they're angry, and Growlithe looks angry. And the lith is a different pronunciation. We usually pronounce this word as lithe, with a long I, lithe, which means smooth and graceful. So we have 2 kind of different words here, angry and graceful, coming together for Growlithe. Growlithe evolves into Arcanine. Arcanine. And here, again, just like Vulpix came from vulpine, canine is the adjective for dogs. And arcane is a word that means secret, mysterious, legendary, something understood by few people. At first, this doesn't make sense when you think about a fire Pokemon, but actually, Arcanine is classified as a legendary Pokemon, so arcane makes sense to attach here. Arcanine. Next up on the list is Ponyta, number 77, Ponyta. This name has a lot of possibilities, but pony is a small horse. Okay, Ponyta is a small horse. A ponytail is a hairstyle. The hair gets pulled up like this, and it looks like Ponyta could have a ponytail someday. And the word bonita rhymes with it. and in Spanish, bonita means beautiful or pretty. This name is a little too boring for me. There's not a lot going on. Ponyta. Moving on from Ponyta, we get to Rapidash. Number 78, Rapidash. This word has two parts to it, this name. Rapid is something that is quick, swift, or fast, and dash means the same thing, running fast, a sprint. For example, one kind of race is a 100-meter dash. Just run really fast. So I can guess that Rapidash is probably super fast, just by the name. Next up at 126 is Magmar. One of the last fire types in Generation 1, Magma is the lava that's still underground in something like a volcano. Melted rocks are called magma. Fire type makes sense. And Mar could come from char, like Charmander, which is the burned stuff, but it could also come from the word mar, which means to destroy, ruin, or wreck. This is a fire destroyer. This is Magmar. Flareon is next. Flareon. A flare is a sudden bright light, like a burst of flame or a burst of fire. This is called a solar flare when it shoots out from the sun. And this is called a road flare that you shoot in the air. Both are fiery things. And eon is a long time period, and it's at the end of all Eevee evolutions that we'll see coming up. Flareon. Next up, Moltres at 146. Molten, like we talked about with Magma and Magmar, it means melted. Like lava is made from molten rocks. And molt in the first part also means when a bird loses its feathers. A phoenix is a kind of fire bird, just like Moltres is a fire bird. And at the end we have tres, which is 3 in Spanish because Moltres is the third legendary bird after Articuno and Zapdos, which we will get to in a later video. Okay, and now to rank these fire-type Pokemon on whether or not their names make sense. And we're going to start down in D tier with some very boring names that have nothing to do with fire. Ninetales and Ponyta. Just 2 words, 9 tails, and Ponyta, which just means little pony. I don't like it. We have Rapidash moving up. It's not a bad name, and again, just has nothing to do with fire. Look at all the fire in the picture, and we get nothing in the name. Charmander. I know, I like Charmander, but a salamander is a water kind of animal, not a fire kind of animal. And Magmar. It's not a terrible name, it's just a little bit boring. Magmar. In B tier is Charmeleon, and this works the same reason as Charizard. Char, it is a cool sounding start of the name, but with fire, it means like what's left over. It shouldn't be the name of the Pokemon themselves. Charmeleon and Charizard, stuck in B tier along with Moltres. It is a cool story of the name. It just doesn't, it's not easily pronounced actually, Moltres. And the Phoenix part of the story is cool. The number 3 as the legendary birds is cool too. So at least it gets up to B tier. In the A tier and S tier we have 2 each. We have Flareon and Growlithe in A. Growlithe would be up there in S tier because it has the angry sound and the graceful sound working together, but it's pronounced Lithe, and I don't think it's perfect to put it up any higher. But in S tier we have Vulpix, which is an absolutely perfect name. Really cool to learn about Vulp being part of Vulpine for foxes. And then we get Arcanine. Again, we get the arcane word in there, and it ties into Arcanine being a legendary Pokemon. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll be along with the next type, which I believe is electric type, coming next. See ya!